Welcome to Getting to Know the 5 Critical Components of the North Carolina K-3 Formative Assessment Process. The North Carolina K-3 Formative Assessment Process is comprised of 5 critical components. All 5 must be present to implement the process. Selecting learning targets, developing criteria for success, eliciting evidence of learning, interpreting the evidence, adapting and responding to learning needs. This is Module 3 of 5, Adapting and Responding to Learning Needs. This module focuses on one of the 5 critical components, with the understanding that all 5 are necessary to implement the process. Adapting and responding to learning needs involves using descriptive feedback that is provided by teachers and used by students based upon the learning status identified, and ongoing, in-the-moment adjustments are made to instruction based upon the evidence elicited. You will need some materials as we go through this module. Download the Self-Reflection Tool. You can find it at this tiny URL. It can also be found on the LiveBinder for Educators. Click on the Formative Assessment Process tab, and then click on the Self-Reflection tab. You will also want the at-a-glance documents. They can be found on the LiveBinder for Educators. Click on the Construct Progressions tab, and then click the At-a-Glance Resources tab. Choose which resource you prefer, or download them all. Here are the goals for this module. Participants will gain an understanding of how to provide non-graded descriptive feedback that highlights which criteria for success have been met and which have not been met, and why. Create opportunities for students to use descriptive feedback to move their learning forward. Make timely adjustments to instruction based upon students' current learning status. Well, how do I do this? First, we need to determine the student's current learning status, and we learned how to do this in Module 2. We'll look for which criteria for success have been met and which have not, and why, and provide this descriptive feedback to students. Look for ways to prompt students to the next skill step along the progression to move their learning forward. Once the evidence is interpreted and the learning status is identified on the construct progressions, continue to adapt and respond to the learning needs of the student, addressing the same learning target if the student hasn't met it. If the student has met the learning target, work with the student to select a new learning target for teaching and learning. In Kimberly Harshaw's classroom in Orange County, this student created a Play-Doh pancake, cut it into pieces, and counted each piece without the need to recount the pieces or touch each piece as she counted. This puts her at skill step E on the object counting progression, so her current learning status is skill E. That's our first step, identifying the learning status along the construct progression. Let's also check the construct progression for the next step, so that we can adjust our instruction based upon the student's current learning status. Here, we're looking at the at-a-glance document. You can also find the construct progressions in the technology platform. We will want to give descriptive feedback based upon the student's current learning status that highlights what criteria for success have been met and why, and how the student can move her learning forward. So taking a look at the next step along the progression will be helpful for this student. So we know that she has met skill step E, states or indicates the same quantity without recounting. And we'll look at the next step, F, names or indicates the same number for rearranging objects without recounting. Let's go back to the example. So here's some sample descriptive feedback that we can provide for this student. You knew you had 10 pieces and you counted them by looking at them. This tells her the criteria for success that has been met. And here's a prompt to move her to the next step. If we move the pieces around, I wonder how many you would have. This gives her an opportunity to move her learning forward. Here's a quick review. Locating students' current learning status. We learned how to do this in Module 2. Choose what works best for you. The platform contains the construct progressions, which can be viewed when you have documented evidences. Then you can record students' learning statuses that match the evidence recorded. Teachers have also used flipbooks and at-a-glance versions of the construct progressions, and then logged onto the platform, uploaded the evidences, and recorded students' learning statuses. If you need a review of this, you can see that in Module 2. Let's do a quick review for adapting and responding to learning needs for our students. Here were the 3 module goals. Provide non-graded descriptive feedback that highlights which criteria for success have been met and which have not been met and why. Create opportunities for students to use descriptive feedback to move their learning forward. Make timely adjustments to instruction based upon students' current learning status. You can do a self-check for this module by using the self-reflection document that you downloaded at the beginning of the module. Complete the section for adapting and responding to learning needs by checking one of the following for these 3 items: in place, partially in place, or not in place for the 3 module goals. With a partner or individually, set a goal for adapting and responding to learning needs. Describe how you will reach your goal. For example, use students' current learning status to provide descriptive feedback during Math Center time this week.